As you already know, a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. Here are some examples of nouns. And all these are nouns, and these are nouns too. The most important thing about nouns is their function, how they're being used in a sentence. There are 7 functions of nouns listed here, and we're going to go through all of these today, but the most important are the subject, direct object, and object of a preposition. So let's start with subject. A sentence cannot be complete without a subject. In grammatical terms, the subject is the person or thing that is doing the action of the sentence. Here are a few examples. In the sentence, Mr. Cannon is crazy, Mr. Cannon is the one doing the action of being crazy, so he is the subject. As you can see in the other sentences, pizza, Frankenstein, bees, those are our subjects. And in this last sentence, we've got a bunch of different nouns that together are our subject, because together they are doing the action of the sentence. The next most common use for nouns in a sentence is as a direct object. Direct object receives the action of the sentence. For example, in the sentence, Batman eats cake. Batman is our subject, but cake is our direct object. What is Batman eating? What is he doing the action to? It's the cake. So that is the direct object. Not every sentence needs a direct object, but it is very common for sentences to have them. Here are a few more examples of sentences with direct objects. And I'll underline the direct objects here. And here, this last example, Brad Pitt stars in movies, is actually not a direct object. This is a prepositional phrase and an object of a preposition, which we'll get to later. So as you can see, not every sentence needs to have a direct object, but many sentences do. In sentences where the verb is telling about a state of being or seeming rather than an action, there is a subject complement instead of a direct object. The most common verb for which this is true is to be. Forms of this verb include is, was, will be, am, and were. If I said, I am a teacher, then teacher is not receiving the action. It's not a direct object. It's just completing the meaning of the subject. So it's a subject complement instead of a direct object. So far, we've gone over subject, direct object, and subject complement. Let's go over indirect object next. In addition to direct objects, a sentence can have an indirect object. This usually happens in sentences about giving, telling, or making. The indirect object tells who receives the direct object. There must be a direct object in a sentence for there to be an indirect object. For example, in the sentence, I give the students pizza. Pizza is the direct object because that's what I'm giving. The subject is giving. But the students are the indirect object because they are receiving that pizza. You can always reword an indirect object as a prepositional phrase with to or for. I could have said, I give pizza to the students. But that wouldn't be an indirect object. That would be a prepositional phrase. Here are some other examples of indirect objects. I gave Frankenstein the money. I will lend Dracula my bicycle. I make some snakes breakfast. And of course, that's only if I mean that I am making breakfast for the snakes and not making them into breakfast. I told the class a story. I built Whitney, my dog, a doghouse. Those are all indirect objects. So now we've done subject, direct object, indirect object, subject complement. Next, in the next video, we'll go over object of preposition, object complement, and a positive.